Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Maverick News channel. So much going on tonight, and so much of it focused on violence. Of course, we're going to talk about the war in Iran, maybe a little bit about Ukraine, maybe a little bit about Cuba. Oh, lots of wars going on. Brought to you by the Peace President. And we'll talk maybe a little bit about the economy and the impact on the economy because of all these wars, especially the war in Iran. We'll talk about the value of the dollar, Bitcoin, and maybe even touch on the value of Trump's coin. We will talk about Doug Ford, who made a very politically incorrect comment today dealing with violence, home invasions, congratulating a homeowner for the way this person handled a home invasion using a gun, shooting a person in their home. And we'll tell you exactly what Doug Ford said about it today. That's making some heads blow up. So we have all that. And Rand Paul. Yeah, he's in the news today, too, talking about the violence that was perpetrated on him some time ago when he was tackled by a neighbor, breaking 3 ribs, puncturing a lung. And we'll tell you how all that fits together when we come back on the other side of this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Also, right off the top, I should say that I know I previewed tonight's content yesterday, saying we were going to have separatist Brandon Pringle back on, our friend, for part 2 of the Goodbye Canada, Hello Separatism segment. But Brandon called and canceled for tonight at the last minute, and we will see where we go from here. Hopefully he'll be on in the nights ahead, maybe tomorrow. We shall see, but first things first. Tonight, we have the war in Iran to update for you. The war between the United States, Israel, and Iran now entering its 19th day, and it is spiraling fast. Hard to believe it began all the way back on February 28th, something that was supposed to be over with very quickly. Now, Trump did say that the war might be with us for 3 or 4 weeks. Well, we're now entering into that time zone. And This war was supposed to be, well, it was kind of a surprise, wasn't it? Nobody really saw it coming, at least not until the last minute. And these U.S.-Israeli strikes that killed Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, has now become a full-blown regional firestorm. So in the past 24 hours alone, Israel carried out a major new escalation, precision strikes on Iran's South Pars gas field, the largest natural gas field in the world. U.S. officials say Washington was informed and approved the operation, but did not take part directly. Iran is calling it an attack on its energy lifeline. Oil prices have spiked sharply as a result on world markets. There are fears that are growing that Tehran could try to shut down the Strait of Hormuz completely, threatening 20% of the global oil supply. Indeed, I think it pretty much is shut down. Very few ships making their way through. Iran has wasted no time responding. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps launched waves of ballistic missiles and drones at Israel. 2 people confirmed dead in the Tel Aviv suburb of Ramat Gan after a direct hit. Shrapnel injured others. Israeli emergency services are reporting cluster munitions falling in central Israel. All this while Iranian missiles slammed into Qatar's massive Ras Laffan LNG facility, causing extensive damage and halting operations at one of the world's biggest liquefied natural gas hubs. Iran has also fired at Saudi Arabia and other Gulf targets, the most were intercepted. Tehran is now warning every Gulf energy site to evacuate, promising more strikes. Also, a fair bit of propaganda out there, and I can't tell in some cases if this is real or fake. Iran claiming that they hit a nuclear reactor in response to the assassination of Security Council Secretary Ali Latisni. Iranian ballistic missiles struck, according to Iran anyway, the Dimona nuclear reactor in Israel. I'm just going to do a little bit of a search here because this is on the fly to see if that is indeed real. I just don't know. So here's video. Let's see if this video matches reality. Released by Iran Insight, or it's on the Iran Insight X feed tonight. Let's bring it up and see what it says. There we go. Right here. Post claims Iran, asking Grok. The Post claims Iran launched ballistic missiles at Israel's Dimona nuclear reactor in retaliation for the assassination of Ali Larijani, misspelled as Ali Latisni, a senior Iranian official killed in an Israeli strike on March 17th. Amid broader conflict, attached video shows flames at an industrial facility with chimneys, but fact checks identified it as misrepresented footage of a 2025 Ukraine depot explosion, not a nuclear site attack. Indeed. Fake news. Yeah, I didn't see anything else about this, and I didn't know who the hell they were talking about. Ali Latisni. Yeah, but that is accurate if you're looking at it to say Ali Larijani. Now I understand why it's Ali Latisni. In any event, totally fake, coming from Iran. Needless to say, if you're seeing that X post or anything posted on Iran Insight, I would say be very careful. I wouldn't really believe anything they're saying, because obviously they post fake news. Fake news. Okay, let's go back here. Yeah, okay. So, on the ground, well, a lot of concerns that we may see boots on the ground very soon. Talk that the United States is maybe negotiating with Gulf states to find some way to put boots on the ground. Maybe, and I think maybe we might see boots on the ground on Karg Island. That's where uh, the Iranians have all that oil infrastructure, and that is where the ships actually pick up the oil. That was built a long time ago, actually, by the United States. Also, tonight, funerals are underway in Tehran for the fallen leaders. Iranian state media says more than 1,400 Iranians have been killed and nearly 19,000 injured since the war started. Israel continues to pound Iranian missile sites, air defenses, and naval assets, while Hezbollah keeps up rocket fire from Lebanon. Global markets are reacting. Energy prices are surging tonight. Shipping companies rerouting around the Gulf, and European leaders are already bracing for another energy crisis. It's a fluid situation. It's very dangerous. I know oil prices have hit about $111 a barrel as of this hour. That is affecting gasoline prices on the home front in the United States and here in Canada. They haven't spiked that much today at the pump, but I know here, where I sit tonight, people are paying about $1.59, $1.60 a liter. And depending on where you are in Canada, that price will vary. I know that at First Nations reserve gas stations, of course, the price is somewhat lower because taxes don't apply there. Not all of them. So you get a bit of a price break there if you're anywhere near there. Now, we are also seeing that the central bank, the Fed, warning on the U.S. side that these higher gas prices, higher oil prices are going to lead to more inflation. That's right, at least in the short term. And they are also saying tonight that the long term now looks very shaky, uncertain, even though Trump elected promising to bring prices down. We are getting the opposite. He has said inflation is under control, admitting, though, in recent days that, yes, some prices have increased, and we've certainly seen that in Canada as well. Inflation, a major concern. So today, the Bank of Canada and Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem announced that they're going to hold the interest rate at 2.25%, the key interest rate. And we have a clip of Mr. Macklem here talking about exactly what I just mentioned, the thing that is of most concern, which is, honestly, uncertainty. You can't plan. You don't know what's coming. It isn't just that prices are surging, it's that we don't know what's coming even from 1 hour to the next. Here's the Bank of Canada Governor.
The Canadian economy continues to face heightened uncertainty related to U.S. trade policy and geopolitical risks. Now the war in Iran has added a new layer of uncertainty. Its impact on the global and Canadian economies will depend on how long the conflict lasts and the extent to which it spreads across the Middle East. Inflation in Canada has been close to the 2% target for more than a year now. But as we've seen, the war in Iran is causing oil prices to move sharply higher, and this will push inflation up in the near term. Canada's economy is dealing with a lot, and we now face more volatility. The Bank of Canada's role is to be a source of stability. We're supporting economic activity while ensuring that a jump in energy prices doesn't turn into persistent inflation. So let me expand on what we've seen in the economy since we published our January monetary policy report and what we see ahead. Recent data show the Canadian economy remains in excess supply and is growing slowly as it adjusts to U.S. tariffs and uncertainty. After growing 2.4% in the third quarter of last year, GDP shrank by 0.6% in the fourth quarter. This was weaker than we forecast at the time of the January MPR, but that's mainly because inventories were drawn down more than we expected. Domestic demand actually grew by 2.4%, because of the strength in consumer and government spending, although housing was weak. Data received for early 2026 suggests the economy is expanding again, but at a slower pace than we had forecast in January. The labor market remains soft. The job gains we saw late last year were largely reversed in the first 2 months of 2026, and the unemployment rate rose to 6.7% in February. Recent trade data have been volatile, but they suggest growing weakness in exports. Inflation eased further to 1.8% in February, down from 2.3% in January. CPI inflation, excluding taxes, and measures of core inflation have also come down and are all now close to 2%. Food inflation, however, remains a problem. Food inflation slowed in February, but is still elevated. The recent sharp increase in global energy prices is causing higher prices at the pump, as we've all seen, and this will push inflation up in coming months. It's still too early to assess the impact of the war on growth in Canada. If higher oil prices are maintained, this will boost incomes from our energy exports. At the same time, higher oil prices squeeze consumers, leaving them with less income for everything else. Beyond the jump in energy prices, the war in Iran will affect households and businesses in other ways. Financial conditions have already tightened. Global bond yields are higher, stock markets are lower, and credit spreads are wider. Transportation bottlenecks caused by the effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz could also impact the supplies of other commodities, like fertilizer. In its monetary policy deliberations, Governing Council is considering both the most likely path for the economy and inflation and the risks to the outlook. Uncertainty is acute. Trade and geopolitical uncertainties remain, and the conflict in the Middle East has broadened the range of possible outcomes. Relative to our January forecasts, risk to economic growth are tilted to the downside. Near-term growth looks weaker than expected, and the review of the Canada-United States-Mexico agreement is still a big unknown. At the same time, risks to inflation are tilted to the upside because of the sharp increase in energy prices. Economic weakness combined with rising inflation is a dilemma for central banks. Increasing interest rates to slow inflation could further weaken the economy. Easing interest rates to support growth risks pushing inflation well above target. Canada's outlook is further complicated by structural change, shifting trade relationships, the adoption of AI, and changes in demographics. With inflation close to target and the economy in excess supply, the risk that higher energy prices quickly spread to the prices of other goods and services looks contained. But the longer the conflict lasts and the wider it gets, the bigger the risks. Governing Council will look through the war's immediate impact on inflation. But if energy prices stay high, we will not let their effects broaden and become persistent inflation. À notre réunion cette
So, what does that mean? It means that the Bank of Canada will not let inflation take hold. So, they would take measures to curb demand. So if inflation becomes a bigger problem, and it's not really a huge problem at the moment because the target is 2% and we've been hitting that. But if it starts to creep up because of these rising energy costs, you might see an interest rate boost in order to increase the cost of money and slow growth. So we'll see what happens in that regard in the days ahead. You know, I was thinking too, just listening to that, about our conversation with Brandon Pringle 2 nights ago, which touched on, I think, a record number of topics in a single podcast, a world record. I can't believe how many different things were brought up in such a short period of time. One of those things, of course, was tariffs and the economy and unemployment and on and on. Listening to all of this just made me think of something. When you're talking about economics, socialism, helping other countries, soft power, just, sharing wealth, sometimes the best of intentions have the worst outcomes. I'll give you an example. So often we think we're going to do the right thing just by helping people, just by giving them money. Maybe people think we just have to take these poor people on the street, just give them money, or these people are homeless, we'll just build them a house. They think taking the straight line is the solution, but often that isn't the case because there are other factors, so many other things to consider when you're trying to find a solution to a real problem. That's why I kept asking Brandon the other night for details, specifics on stats that he was throwing out, because you need the full picture to fully understand an issue. So as an example of sort of what I'm talking about, lesson that I learned a long time ago, if you have, say, an impoverished country that we in the West, because we live in the first world, want to help, and so we think we're going to send them aid and improve their lives by, say, sending them shoes, because let's say in country X, they don't have enough shoes or no shoes, very few shoes. And the children need shoes and people need shoes. So what do we do over here? We think, well, we'll just round up a bunch of shoes, get people to donate shoes, and we'll put them on a plane, fly them over, and give away free shoes to all the people so they all have shoes. But that could actually be as harmful as it is helpful. Helpful in the beginning, but maybe harmful in the long run, and I'll explain why. You see, if that's what you do, you may not realize that over in country X, maybe you have one or two small operators who maybe produce shoes, manufacture shoes, make shoes by hand, whatever. Or maybe they're shoe distributors. And if you send a plane load of shoes over and give them all away, the people who make the shoes in that country then won't sell any shoes, probably for at least a year or maybe longer, as people wear the shoes that we gave them for free and continue to wear them and don't buy any new shoes until those shoes wear out. As a result, when their shoes wear out, the people who are making the shoes are out of business, and then they can't get any shoes at all again. So now you have even fewer shoes available, and now you have to send them more shoes, because what we maybe should have done was find a way to help themselves more by finding a way to produce more shoes in country X. So you see, that's just a very simple way of explaining how the best of intentions pave a road to hell in the long run, or maybe even in the medium or short run. So you have to think things through. You have to realize that details matter, and understanding the laws of economics matter as well. I'm not so sure J.D. Vance does, and I'm pretty sure Donald Trump doesn't give a damn as long as he wins. But today, over in Auburn Hills, Michigan, J.D. Vance, vice president, decided to, I'll let him speak for himself. He says that Canada has been abusing the United States, taking advantage of the U.S. for 40 years.
President Trump has made some comments about trade with Canada. For manufacturers here in Michigan, that bridge will be a lifeline to get products over the border. Do you think that the president has taken the right steps with Canada in regards to the bridge, and do you think that it should open on time?
And of course, that's the Gordie Howe Bridge, which Canada paid for entirely, 100% of it. gave 50% of the ownership to Michigan to improve cross-border trade, to provide a supplement in addition to the Ambassador Bridge, which is already in place. And then Trump said that it was a crappy deal for the United States, and Canada should have. He's trying to block the opening of the bridge. I highlighted for you that it really is the Maroon family, which owns the Ambassador Bridge, that seems to be ramping up its long-standing efforts and amplifying them as we get close to the opening of this bridge, trying to block it because, of course, as soon as it opens, they have competition, and it will cost them literally billions of dollars. Anyway, let's listen to the response from J.D. Vance.
Well, the president's attitude to Canada is they are an important ally. They're an important trading partner, especially for folks in this region of our country. But Canada has taken advantage of the United States of America for far too long. And they've taken advantage of the United States in a couple of different ways. Number one, they have allowed us to subsidize their entire military, their entire security. Canada pays virtually nothing, at least until a couple of years ago, for their own security, which means we had to foot the bill for that security. Is that fair to you and your kids that you have to pay for the military of a foreign country? No. So the President of the United States said to the Canadians, number one, you guys got to take your own security more seriously. You're always going to be an ally, but why don't you have a little bit more self-sufficiency? And I think that makes complete and total sense. The second thing the President said is, if we're going to be true friends, you have to treat our workers as fairly as we've treated Canadian workers for 40 years. Again, we have let so many people over the entire time that I've been alive take advantage of the United States of America. The President said, if you're going to apply a tariff to our goods, we're going to start applying a tariff to your goods too. It's basic fairness. And that's what we've done. And our hope with Canada, and I think we'll get there eventually, is we're going to get to a point where Canada treats our workers fairly, we treat their workers fairly, and they're going to be a true ally and a true friend, not somebody who's taken advantage of us, which is what they've done for most of my life. Thank you.
You know, back in the 60s, Canada had a dream called the Avro aerospace industry. Probably at the time the most advanced fighter jet in the world, an interceptor. We were going to build that thing, and then it ended up being canceled. As the story goes, one of the main reasons it was canceled was because the United States government didn't want Canada building something that advanced in this country, a weapons system, a fighter jet. And I think it's pretty clear that the United States would not allow any country in this hemisphere to possess nuclear weapons which might be pointed someday at the United States. There was a time in the past when Canada had Bomark missiles up in the Arctic under the control mainly of the United States, co-control, but they weren't really Canadian missiles. And they're not there today. And it was it yesterday or the day before? Day before, I think. Mark Carney meeting with those other Arctic country leaders saying Canada has, he made it very clear, Canada has no plans to acquire, no desire to acquire nuclear weapons. That's a message directly related to, aimed at the White House to let them know we don't want to be a threat. You see, Canada's military, yes, on the one hand, we should be spending more, definitely should be contributing more to NATO to keep up with our commitments there. So, and I guess we're going to be doing that. It looks like the money's earmarked for it. But at the same time, don't lose sight of the fact that we're not allowed to have a very strong military up here because some people down in the States get pretty skittish. Some politicians and military leaders down there get pretty darn skittish when anybody becomes strong around them. They like to keep everything kind of under control. They like to dominate. And we've been happy to let them do that because we've been able to trust the United States, like all these other NATO countries, like countries around the world. And that's been the rules-based international order since World War II. It's all been based on trust. That's why the United States has been allowed to become Godzilla. That's why Canada assisted the United States. We were part of the development of the nuclear bomb, the A-bomb. And then the United States became the lead for NATO, the leader for the free world, the protector for the whole free world. And as much as J.D. Vance sits there in Auburn Hills and talks about the United States being taken advantage of, echoing this rhetoric from Donald Trump, the truth is there is no country on earth that has benefited more since World War II from the rules-based international order and the dominance that the nuclear bomb, nuclear weapons have afforded the United States than the United States itself, becoming the wealthiest, most affluent country in the history of mankind. The problems that the United States faces are largely of its own making. Politicians who printed too much money, spent too much money, not knowing when to throttle back and live within the means available to the United States. And those boundaries, pretty broad, extensive. Their debt isn't just because of military expansion. That's part of it. But their debt is also because they have squandered the money. And they've dropped too many bombs that cost way too much money on too many places for political purposes, like, gee, I'm a little low in the polls and we're going into an election cycle, and there's this sex scandal over here, and this is going to hurt me. I need a distraction. Let's drop a few big ones. Maybe get people's minds off those Epstein files.
They both look clean, but the guest list redacted, if you know what I mean. No files exist, just a little twist, nothing to see here. Move along, folks, the truth's in the vault with the dirty jokes. No names released, justice deceased to protect the victims and Donald Trump. Shh, don't say the name, you'll get dumped. They dance with the girls too young to vote. A private jet and a suicide note. One's in a grave, the other still tweets. The truth took a dive 6,000 feet. The cameras broke. That's not a joke. The guards were napping, the logs were gone, and everyone smiled like nothing's wrong. Nobody talks, just shadow walks. National security took the stage while justice quietly disengaged. We can't release the names to protect the victims. and also Donald Trump. Coincidence? Just dumb luck. Right? Another sealed file. That crocodile smile. We did our best, says the DOJ, while the truth just fades away. Another news spin. No one will win except the rich guys with gold ID cards and closets full of secrets behind steel bars. Just a little glitch. A billionaire's privilege. That's the sound of the case. Closed.
So, the best part of the economic story today has got to be the official Trump coin price. So today, let's see what we have here. Up to the minute. There it is. Look, oh, it went up a few cents in the last hour. The Trump coin. Who bought the Trump coin? Anybody ever buy any Trump coin? Like, it's like Bitcoin, but it's Trump. There it is today, $3.45. Down about, what was that, up or down? It's down 4.97% today. There it is. This is what's happened to it during the day today. It was at high of like 370. What a great deal, eh? Fantastic. 1 year ago, it was up as high as 15. And what was that? That was way back in April of last year. You know, immediately after his launch, it rocketed up to a price where it was selling. They were Trump coins sold for around $75. Now it's lost about 75 to 80% of its value. Great deal. And the Trump family has pocketed, it's hard to say how much money. Various accounts, anywhere from 1 to 5 billion. I think 5 billion is maybe a little high, but at least $1 billion. Good deal for them. Maybe not so much for people who invested savings into it. Also, you know, the other thing that has left a bad taste in my mouth, honestly, over the last few years, as I've been watching a lot of these live streamers on the conservative side. I think I might do a full expose on this crap. All these gold companies. Have you ever looked at them? Like, a lot of these conservative programs push these gold products. You can buy gold coins and invest in gold. Now, some of them, like I think like if you get into Shift Gold and stuff like that, that's not really so much meme coins and so on, and it's not like gold collectible coins and that sort of thing. But some of these companies, I would just caution you, if you are watching these programs and you are thinking that it might be a good idea to take your retirement money as they are encouraging you to, and take your retirement funds and invest in these gold products, I would say be very, very cautious. Don't take financial advice from me. Go consult a professional. Certainly before you do something like that. There are horror stories out there about these companies and what they are doing, because so many reports of a lot of them are like collectible gold coins and other gold products that they sell. And they are grossly overvalued. The other thing that they do is they say, if you're not happy or whatever, they offer people money back guarantees. The problem is that if you take out your retirement money and then send it to them, and then they give you the gold products back, and then you realize that you've paid way over market value for these gold products that they sell as an investment for your retirement, and then you ask for the refund that you've been promised, there are huge penalties that they charge you in order to get your money back. Instantly, many stories out there of people losing up to 50% of their retirement funds when they send them to these companies. And then when they ask for their money back, they are charged an additional exorbitant fee. And in some cases, people losing as much as 70 and 80% of their retirement funds. I'm not saying that all of these companies are bad. Not all of them are doing illegal things, but a lot of them are doing terrible things that are not illegal. Not illegal. And in fact, it's Donald Trump and his administration and his deregulation that has allowed a lot of this stuff to not just continue, but even become worse, especially in the cryptocurrency markets where there is a lack of regulation, which has allowed the people, companies that have issued a lot of these cryptocurrencies to list them without having them listed as securities, where they would be regulated as securities under U.S. law, but they're not subject to those same kinds of rules and scrutiny. And as a result, there are a lot of shenanigans that have gone on, a lot of pump and dump operations, a lot of coins shooting up in value when initially offered, and then losing almost all of their value, and in some cases even going to zero very quickly after the people who issue them put the money in their pockets. Not saying that Donald Trump did anything illegal, but it's pretty easy to avoid breaking the law when you're the guy making the laws. Maybe more on that in the days ahead. I've been trying to get around to doing something with this stuff for so long, but there's always so much happening that because every time I turn around, there's another Trumpster dumpster fire that we have to report on. I'll be right back.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarmingly, some media outlets simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
In an ocean of lies a century deep, the truth awaits. Choose not the red pill. Choose not the blue pill. For both are an illusion. Discover the power of M. The power of individuality. We are mavericks, we are the way to the light. Fear not the storm. Join our quest for truth. Truth will set you free. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So I do know that Israel has targeted Iranian leadership again, and Iran in turn has been hitting U.S. and allied radar sites in the Middle East. At least 10 sites hit. That confirmed from satellite analysis. And that really dating all the way back to the earliest days of this war of Iran with Iran. Getting into the third week here now. Don't really know exactly what the true extent of the damage is with regard to these U.S. targets in the Middle East, but there's a lot of money that's been blown up and a lot of concern about the ongoing capabilities of the United States forces to protect not only the U.S. bases, but the entire region because of maybe diminished satellite abilities. I'm not letting the cat out of the bag because it's being reported widely on all kinds of media now tonight, including ABC, which is also has been talking about that, but also talking about the elimination of more Iranian leadership. And here is this report from them to highlight that.
Gabbard Ali joins us now. He's a former senior director for counterterrorism at the National Security Council. Thank you so much for joining us. Israel says that it has killed Iran's de facto leader in an airstrike. How big of a development would you say that this is?
So, Lindsay, nice to be with you. And I would argue the death of Ali Larijani is just as significant for Iran as the death of Ali Khamenei, the former supreme leader, going back now 2+ weeks ago. Ali Larijani was, by all accounts, running the national security affairs of Iran, both before the war broke out and then subsequent to that. So with his death, the question is, who now will replace him? Probably somebody else very senior from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, who was also trusted and had the credentials that Larijani and others did. But the regime is under tremendous pressure. This alone won't make it collapse, but I don't think that Iran can continue to lose leaders at this level for weeks on end. Their bench is growing shorter by the day.
And we are more than 2 weeks into this war at this point. What do you think success looks like? And do you think that America's goals continue to be aligned strategically with Israel's?
That's a great question, Lindsay. So we've heard from President Trump that he believes the military operations the U.S. and Israel have engaged in so far have delivered tremendous results. We've talked about the fact that Iran has lost its most senior leaders for the past 2.5 weeks. Thousands and thousands of strikes against the Iranian military, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, its ballistic missile and drone capabilities, its Navy, its Air Force, all under serious, serious pressure, and probably only fractions of that capability still remaining. So I think the question is for the end state, whether it's a couple days or a couple weeks away or longer, can the U.S. live with the regime still intact, but with a different level of leaders, but a much weakened Iranian military that can't threaten its neighbors? That is one scenario for success, but is that going to result in that time frame? And is that what President Trump truly would like to see at the end of this?
President Trump, as you know, is blasting NATO allies for refusing his demands to help protect the Strait of Hormuz. It's part of a growing wedge between the U.S. and Europe. What kind of security implications could that have?
So the issue with the Strait of Hormuz, as we've talked about, with Iran under tremendous pressure, both on the regime and on the military side, what Iran is doing is attacking its neighbors and trying to close the Gulf and deny access to shipping in and out of the Gulf to force the economic and political pressure back on the U.S. and the West. And these effects are having the impact here at home, as your previous segments talked about, with the rising gas prices and other impacts on the economy. So that's the card that Iran is trying to play right now. But again, its military capabilities are far weaker than they were 2.5 weeks ago. And how much longer can Iran try to block shipping in the Straits of Hormuz? And at what point will the U.S. try to sort of get through that blockade and even land U.S. troops in Iran to accelerate the military campaign that's going on?
And let's get your reaction to Joe Kent's resignation. Trump's director of the National Counterterrorism Center quit and said that Iran posed no imminent threat and that Israel pressured the U.S. into the war. What do you make of that, and what kind of pressure does it put on the White House?
So, significant development. And I also had worked at the National Counterterrorism Center for 3.5 years before I went to the White House in 2017. So I know exactly what the organization does and what its previous directors do and how important that position is. So he's the first senior Trump administration official who is appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate to resign, and not only resign, but resign on what Joe Kent is saying is on principle and this opposition to the war on Iran. So it remains to be seen whether others in that inner circle in the Trump national security world will also resign. I think that's unlikely. I think he will probably be the only one, at least for the immediate future. But I also don't think it will really change the way President Trump is thinking about prosecuting the war and dealing with the fallout back here at home. And in the center itself, I mean, there will be someone who will assume Joe Kent's duties, and then the question will be, will the White House nominate somebody else to be confirmed by the Senate to run the center?
Javad Ali, we thank you so much for your insight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Lindsay.
So this is not so simple after all. And we're not sure where it's going tonight. Iran ramping up its rhetoric. Well, we've already seen one set of lies from Iran, but here they are vowing retaliation. This is a firm warning and a red line for the criminals who attacked parts of Iran's fuel and energy infrastructure in the southern region of the country. As a result of this action, the fuel, energy, and gas infrastructure at the origin of the aggression will be set ablaze and reduced to ashes at the earliest opportunity. We declare the cowardly and criminally aggressive American military and the savage, child-killing Zionist regime. You are compelled to throw your soldiers into their doom and lose your dignity. The throats of your commanders and soldiers are under the boots of the warriors of Islam. In the strategic confusion you face, the reality of the battlefield is clear. Think about the astonishing events. You came with a victory scenario, yet now you are searching for ways to preserve your survival in hidden underground think tanks. Your era of bullying is over. Your only refuge to escape the blows of Iran's powerful and decisive operations is to leave the region or choose death. And victory is only from Allah, the Almighty, the Wise. So there's that. And Tulsi Gabbard today, she would not support or repeat what we heard from Joe Kent this week, saying that there was no imminent threat to the United States from Iran. That's why he resigned from his position as Director of National Counterterrorism. He served under Tulsi Gabbard. She wouldn't use that word, but what she did do here is talk about Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, and Pakistan all building advanced missiles, some of them potentially armed with nuclear warheads that may soon be able to reach the United States of America. This is alarming for a few reasons.
However, the intelligence community assesses that Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, and Pakistan have been researching and developing an array of novel, advanced, or traditional missile delivery systems with nuclear and conventional payloads that put our homeland within range. However, the intelligence community assesses that Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, and Pakistan have been researching and developing an array of novel, advanced, or traditional missile delivery systems with nuclear and conventional payloads that put our homeland within range.
So that's twice. Let it run. If that's the case, it changes everything, doesn't it? Obviously, you see now why Trump wants to build the dome, right, over the United States, maybe all of North America, to combat or protect against any kind of intercontinental ballistic missile strikes or other kinds of strikes coming in that might be nuclear in nature, or any kind of strikes like that. Missiles from other countries during my lifetime, the issue has always been mutually assured destruction. Russia, the United States being the two main superpowers, and missiles pointed at each other. So always Canada involved in providing assistance to the United States for security in case the Russians were to launch a missile attack against us in Canada and the U.S. That's the thing J.D. Vance needs to understand as well. You know, the United States relies on Canada for its security. At a minimum, because they need access to the Arctic. At a minimum, because they need access to Canadian sovereign territory, which we have always, as an ally and a partner, provided. No cost, because it's mutually beneficial. So yeah, we do work together. There are reasons why things are the way they are. And where would the United States be if we didn't, say, do what Greenland does and provide access to sovereign territory and work with our allies in order to provide security? But man, things are sure changing when now you have a whole bunch of countries that can point missiles at you because you don't know what direction they might be coming from. That was what the Cuban Missile Crisis was all about. The United States wouldn't allow Cuba to have missiles on its soil, would not stand for it. Kennedy said, no way, never going to happen, although they were sort of there. And yeah, they got rid of that nuclear threat right off the coast of Florida. And that puts it into perspective again, doesn't it, with regard to Canada? Why doesn't Canada have a bigger military? They need to pull their own. Okay. If that's the way you want it, we should be doing more anyway. And now, as you saw, the unspoken words were the ones that spoke most loudly, with the most volume. Where the United States was never mentioned in that joint news conference between all the Arctic nations. But you knew what they were saying. You knew what the defense minister was really saying, Canada's defense minister, when he said that the threat landscape has changed. Because now Canada is looking both toward Russia and we're looking over our shoulder at the White House. A threat not from America, but from the guy in the White House and the people around him who keep punching us in the face.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching.
The world is watching. On TV.
The entire world is watching.
On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
Okay, so America divided on the war, polls showing, different things. Here's Democrat Pat Ryan, who in an interview on CNN says Trump is treating the war in Iran like a video game and expands on it here.
Personally, for me, and especially those that served in Iraq and Afghanistan, we have already spent trillions of dollars, thousands of American lives, hundreds of thousands of Iraqi and Afghan lives on not one, but two misguided forever wars about oil, largely, especially in Iraq. And we need to heed those lessons. The choice is on the table. Do we want to continue to spend those trillions of dollars overseas on misguided regime change wars, or do we actually want to invest here in the country, lowering healthcare costs, lowering housing costs, lowering food and grocery costs, lowering gas and utility costs, which we actually have a plan to do and have seen absolutely nothing from this president or the Republicans in charge of the Congress. Personally, for me, and especially those that served in
Now, I want to show you this as well, but I'll tell you what, I'll do this first. Now, here's Bill O'Reilly. I have to say, too, just as a note, he has lost a lot of weight, and I am wondering if he is not well. I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but he's very thin in the face. Of course, he's getting older. Maybe more time has gone by than I realized. That's entirely possible, too, but he doesn't look well. In any event, here he is over on News Nation, unloading on European allies over this very issue. And then we're going to come back to Tulsi Gabbard.
What do you make of the argument that our allies are leaving us behind and not helping us? I mean, you have the UK and France, China.
You sure you want to ask me this?
I would love to hear your answer on this. I think the alliances are changing. I would love to hear your analysis of the allies in Europe.
Pavlich asked for this, okay? Germany's the worst. The absolute worst.
Worse than France.
Way worse. And France is bad in Iraq. Okay?
But I mean right now, when the president's asking
Germany
for
is the worst. Today, right this second, as we speak. To release a statement going, it's not our war, arrogant beyond belief. Ever since World War II ended in 1945, we have carried them. 100% carried them. Defended them against Stalin and the communists. And they have the gall? Shut up. How do you say that in German? All right, I don't know. Shut up. If you don't like it, okay, but don't try to say it's not our war. You're a bunch of jerks, okay? We saved your butt. I don't know how to say butt in German either.
Well, say me in
you
again now.
owe us. Okay, that's Germany. The worst. Biggest economy, okay? Could be a help. Okay, France, wishy-washy. Depending on the day.
We don't even know if we want them involved.
Okay. Yeah. Spain, I'd throw them out of NATO. If I'm the president, they're gone. I put them on waivers, to use a baseball term. Hey, Spain, you want to be socialist, communist? Good. You're not in the alliance anymore. Okay?
Okay. I think we got the picture. I understand what he's saying. But, you know, a lot of this would have been avoided if Trump had just consulted with allies to build the coalition, even quietly, even behind the scenes somehow, without doing, you don't have to do it all out in public, but he could have, but didn't. No diplomacy. Because why? Because he doesn't really think didn't think he needed to work with other countries, because he thought, he thought this was going to be a lot easier than it has turned out to be. And now, yeah, he could use some help. And the people he has been insulting are not so eager to just cough up that kind of assistance, especially when international law is in question and certain people want to make sure things are done right so that they don't end up on the hook in an international court accused of war crimes or whatever. Point being, a little diplomacy can go a long way. This today, also of note, this is John Ossoff questioning Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard about her role and her presence in Fulton County, Georgia, during an FBI raid earlier this year. So he criticized President Donald Trump here for inviting his political donors to claim your spot and receive private national security briefings. The message included here today a photo of the president at a dignified transfer ceremony. Yes, I'm just reading what the description is on this video. In any event, I think it'll speak for itself. And I think it might be very relevant to what we were just talking about with regard to Gabbard and her earlier comments that I referenced regarding the proliferation of missiles and the situation in Iran.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here. Before I ask you a few questions, I want to call everyone's attention again to this fundraising email signed by the president that Senator Kelly mentioned earlier, in which the President of the United States invites his campaign donors to, quote, claim your spot, join now to receive private national security briefings, to his political donors, featuring a photo of the president at a dignified transfer ceremony with a flag-draped coffin of an American service member killed in action returning to their family. And the American people need to know that the President of the United States is fundraising for his political campaign and his PAC using images of American service members killed in action, and it's a disgrace. Now, Director Gabbard, I'd like to reground this in your core responsibilities. Under the law, you are responsible for providing national intelligence to the president, correct?
Yes.
And to the heads of executive branch departments and agencies, yes?
Yes.
And to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and senior military commanders?
Across the IC, yes.
And to the Senate and the House and relevant committees, correct?
Yes.
And the law states that the national intelligence you provide to Congress, quote, should be timely, objective, and independent of political considerations, correct?
Yes.
And you noted in your opening statement you're here fulfilling a statutory responsibility and that your testimony, quote, represents the IC's assessment of threats,
That's right.
correct? That opening statement, as submitted to the committee in advance of this hearing, stated that as a result of last summer's airstrikes, quote, Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated, end quote, correct?
That's right.
And is that in fact the assessment of the intelligence community?
Yes.
So the assessment of the intelligence community is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated by last summer's airstrikes.
Yes.
And the opening statement you submitted to the committee last night also stated, quote, there has been no effort since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability, end quote, correct?
That's right.
And that's the assessment of the intelligence community.
Yes.
The White House stated on March 1st of this year that this war was launched and was, quote, a military campaign to eliminate the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, end quote. That's a statement from the White House. Quote, the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime. Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was an imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime?
The intelligence community assessed that Iran maintained the intention to rebuild and to continue to grow their nuclear enrichment capability.
Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, yes or no?
Senator, the only person who can determine what is and is not an imminent threat is the president.
False. This is the worldwide threats hearing where you present to Congress national intelligence, timely, objective, and independent of political considerations. You've stated today that the intelligence community's assessment is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated and that, quote, there had been no efforts since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability. Was it the intelligence community's assessment that nevertheless, despite this obliteration, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
It is not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat.
Okay.
That is up to the president based on a volume of information
it is precisely
that he receives.
It is precisely your responsibility to determine what constitutes a threat to the United States. This is the worldwide threats hearing where, as you noted in your opening testimony, quote, You represent the IC's assessment of threats. You are here to represent the IC's assessment of threats. That's a quote from your own opening statement. And so my question is, as you're here to present the IC's assessment of threats, was it the assessment of the intelligence community that, as the White House claimed on March 1st, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
Once again, Senator, the intelligence community has provided the inputs that make up this annual threat assessment.
You won't answer the question.
It is the nature of the imminent threat that the president has to make that determination based on a collection and volume
You're here
of
to be
information and
timely.
intelligence that he is provided with.
You're here to be timely, objective, and independent of political considerations.
Exactly what I'm doing.
No, you're evading a question because to provide a candid response to the committee would contradict a statement from the White House. Let me ask you about your presence in Fulton County on January 28th of this year. You were present at the FBI's raid on the Fulton County Elections Office on January 28th, correct?
I was present for part of the FBI exercising a warrant approved by a municipal judge.
Yes, and the FBI was there executing that warrant to seize ballots and materials associated with the 2020 election, correct?
Yes.
And are you aware that members of this committee have already opened inquiries into your election-related activities?
Yes.
And are you aware that your general counsel and deputy general counsel have already provided testimony to this committee regarding those activities?
Yes.
On February 2nd, you sent a letter to Senator Warner regarding your presence at the raid. Was that letter accurate?
I don't recall the exact date, but if I sent a letter that had my signature, it was accurate.
You stated in the letter that your presence at the raid was, quote, requested by the president, correct?
Yes.
When did the president request your presence at the raid?
The day of the raid, the warrant execution commencing.
The day of the raid?
Yes.
He called you on the phone?
I'm not going to disclose how the message was delivered, but it was a request from the president and his administration to go and help oversee this warrant being executed, along with the deputy director of the FBI.
Is it your role to oversee?
The FBI agents who were conducting.
Is it your role to oversee the execution of criminal warrants?
It is my role, based on statute that Congress has passed, to have oversight over election security, to include counterintelligence.
But you said you oversaw the raid, correct? You just testified you oversaw the raid?
Portions of it.
Okay. Did you handle any ballots or election-related materials?
No.
You were inside an FBI evidence truck, correct? You were photographed inside an FBI evidence truck.
It was an empty truck, yes.
The president stated, quote, you looked at votes that wanted to be checked out.
The senator's time is expired.
Did you look at votes as the president
Senator
stated?
Ossoff, your time is expired.
You respond for the record?
No, she cannot respond because...
No, for the record. Will the director please respond for the record to that question is my
I'm happy to respond to questions for the record.
Support journalism you trust. Support.
Speaking of conflicting information and statements, this is still on the White House website. I pointed this out the other night. Iran's nuclear facilities have been obliterated, and suggestions otherwise are fake news. That back from June, still up, not updated. The world is far safer after President Donald J. Trump's highly successful, decisive precision strikes against the Iranian regime's key nuclear facilities. President Trump says monumental damage was done to all nuclear sites in Iran. As you just heard in that testimony, as shown by satellite images, obliteration is an accurate term. The white structure shown, there's an image attached, is deeply embedded into the rock with even its roof well below ground level and completely shielded from flame. The biggest damage took place far below ground level. Bullseye! Many other statements on there from all the way from the Israel Atomic Energy Commission to J.D. Vance to Pete Hegseth to Marco Rubio, Steve Witkoff, David Albright, and others, all asserting the same thing, that Iran's nuclear program obliterated. Tulsi Gabbard saying there's been no effort based on the intelligence that she has, and that's her job now, to rebuild. So that argument or justification for what Trump has done in the Middle East against Iran doesn't seem to hold water. Maybe we better get Joseph back on here to discuss further. He says America first doesn't mean America alone, but seems like the allies are few and far between for President Trump. Maybe not for America tonight. Be right back.
Brightleaf Innovations is excited to offer our newest investment opportunity, the Turn Easy Bed Storage Solution.
Turns with a touch, spins all the way around. Every little thing you need is easy to be found. No more clutter, no more mess on the floor. Just spin it, reach it, you don't search anymore. Turn Easy Bed, spin your world around. Storage made simple, the best you found. Shelves your way, keep the mess away. Charge it, store it, night or day. It custom shelves for your books or your tech. Cozy space for your treasures to protect. Built-in power when you need to recharge. Smart design that makes your bedroom feel large. Turn Easy Bed, spin your world around. Storage made simple, the best you found. Shelves your way, keep the mess away. Charge it, store it, night or day.
Designed and developed by Brightleaf Innovations, proudly Canadian and patent pending in North America. Turn Easy Bed transforms how you live.
To learn more about this innovative new product idea and exciting investment opportunity, call 519-784-0222 or visit brightleafinnovations.com.
Okay, let's pivot to our next story. We'll put Iran over there and the wars over there for the moment, because I do want to talk about this. Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, making headlines, blowing people's heads up with his words. Politically incorrect, to be sure. Let me see here. I need to cue this. Where'd you go, Doug? This is him talking about a home invasion. Here we go. Okay, I've got the clip. So, oh my God. He congratulated today a homeowner who shot and injured an alleged home invader in Vaughan, Ontario this week, saying that intruders need to be shot, right? So this all comes down to the castle law controversy or issue, I guess is really the right word. Issue is a better word. He said today, congratulations for shooting this guy. Should have shot him a couple more times, as far as I'm concerned, after being asked about this at a news conference, which had nothing to do with any of this, but this is what's ended up dominating the headlines from today's news conference involving the Premier, and it's making national news. We're going to play the clip, but I've got I have video, police released surveillance video from, I think, a doorbell camera or a surveillance camera out on the front porch of this home that was targeted by these home invaders. And I should caution you that this does include, I'm going to show you footage from this crime. And, well, you don't really see any violence. You know, the suggestion, we know that there was a person shot here, so I still preface this with a disclaimer and a warning, as do police right off the top with text in this surveillance footage. I'll roll it for you. Here we go. So this is yesterday in Vaughan, in the GTA. Didn't go as well as they thought. So they all run out and shot, injured. So there you see the request from police to call if you have information about this Crime Stoppers. The number's on the screen. We will, okay, pull that down. Now, Doug Ford, let's get the clip of the premier at the news conference with regard to this, because the homeowner used a gun, shot one of the intruders. Later, an arrest made because eventually the wounded person went to hospital, and police ended up attending, and now we've got the news conference, and it's erupted into this.
Congratulations for shooting this guy. Should have shot him a couple more times as far as I'm concerned. As for the person that was defending his family, he was a legal gun owner, it was stored properly. Congratulations. Yeah, I'm glad you shot the guy. Teaches the rest of these robbers, and I encourage everyone out there that's a legal gun owner. Someone's going to come in and try to kill you and kill your family. Remember, it was just last week, Jamie, one guy got shot because he was trying to protect his kids. Well, you know, these guys, they need to be shot, as far as I'm concerned. And by the way, the federal government, they're spending so much time on going after legal, law-abiding gun owners that safely store their guns, safely store their ammunition, their hunters or their sport shooters. I have an idea. Rather than wasting hundreds of millions of dollars going after legal gun owners, why don't you spend that hundreds of millions of dollars going after the bad guys? You know, they always want to protect the bad guys. The judges always want to protect the Charter of Rights. How about the Charter of Rights of the people to keep them safe, rather than always protecting these criminals? I'm just sick and tired of it, and I can tell you, folks, I talk to a lot of people. I get 1,000 calls, I'm not exaggerating, 1,000 calls and messages a day. People are done with this. They're done with all these crazy protesters and nasty people and breaking into homes and stealing cars. We all grew up here. Did we experience this 10 years ago? No, we never experienced this. People in Toronto never experienced this. I'm guessing about 5 years ago, you know, people just were so brazen because we have some great judges, but we have some really weak-kneed judges letting these criminals out on bail, not once, not twice, 4 or 5 times, just to go, okay, Johnny, go out and break into the next house.
And there's also this clip that's still out there circulating.
It should be used for defensive purposes only.
Talking about pepper spray.
Other thing that you may carry with you, I should say. If you're under attack, your life is in jeopardy, then use every tool you can. And there's nothing wrong with, especially women, walking at night with pepper spray. Folks, let's be honest. People are carrying pepper spray right now. Bear spray's legal, right? Bear spray, what do we do? Say, okay, you can carry bear spray now, coyote spray, whatever it is, but this is to defend yourself when some crazy nut comes after you and wants to do a heinous crime against you. Women should be able, specifically women, but men too, but women should be able to carry pepper spray to protect themselves. Women are scared, men are scared to go out at nighttime, and you know, they're worried about crime. Anyways, I gotta get going.
Except it's kind of illegal in Canada to do that. So he's saying it's okay, but it's actually not okay. You can carry bear spray, not pepper spray, but you can carry bear spray if you're carrying it for the purpose of spraying on a bear or some other predatory animal that might be there to eat you in the wild while you're hunting or hiking, or I don't know if there are bears in your neighborhood. I suppose it's justified to do that. But if you use it on a human being, that is also actually illegal. But that being said, as far as I know, still no charges laid tonight against the homeowner who shot one of those intruders. Here's the leader of Ontario's New Democratic Party making reference to all this, taking a different view.
I don't want my daughters to have to feel like they need to carry pepper spray to be safe in our communities. I don't think it's fair to put that on them. If Doug Ford wants to keep Ontario and his daughters and my daughters and everybody else's daughters safe, then he should look in his own backyard and he should start to address the fact that people don't feel safe in our communities. He is the premier of this province, and if community safety is on people's minds, he should address that. We, the women of this province, we should own these streets. We should own these streets. These are our streets. We shouldn't have to carry pepper spray to feel safe. I don't want my...
The music always helps set the mood. It's just an ongoing issue. Never ends, never ends. Maybe someday, but not in the foreseeable future. Gun rights, violence, pepper spray, and we've seen just in the past week, this past weekend, Doug Ford again trying to get a court injunction to block the Al-Quds Day protests, the one in Toronto, which was at the U.S. consulate, and then I think it went over to Queen's Park as well, which is, Queen's Park and the U.S. consulate too. Usual locations for these kinds of activities, which, depending on your point of view, is either a good thing or a bad thing. But wait, there's more. We have Queen Romana de Dulo. Again, going back to our conversation on separatism the other night and these accusations that Canada is a communist country. No, it's not. Nor is it authoritarian to the degree that you would find in a truly communist country. You can stand up to the government. You can protest the government. You can say nasty things about the government. You can't threaten a politician or really anybody. Certainly shouldn't do it in a public way online because that will bring police to your door. But you can get away with a whole lot in terms of standing up to and challenging the government. It may not get you the result in the end politically that you want, but you're allowed to do it. I can sit here and say all kinds of things about any politician that I want. And you've seen a lot of that from Queen Romana de Dulo, cult leader, the self-proclaimed queen of Canada, not just she doesn't just criticize the Canadian government. She claims to be the government of Canada with the backing of President Donald J. Trump. Well, she, of course, was facing charges all related to the trouble that she has been causing this community. Where were they most recently located? I think it's in Saskatchewan, right? Yeah, so Saskatchewan arrested 16 people back, I think it was last September. Yeah, she's the leader of the Kingdom of Canada, is what they call it. I did send her a message a couple of years ago asking if she would appear on the program. And I got an affirmative response, but in order to do that, she wanted all of my personal information, all of my data, my driver's license, pictures of my passport, all of this personal information. I was surprised she didn't ask for a credit card number. And then I thought, well, why would I need to furnish this information to the Queen of Canada if the Queen of Canada, who rules the kingdom, is truly the Queen? Wouldn't she already have access to that information? Couldn't she just go on the database or whatever? Because she talks in the videos about building roads and how the real funding for all these infrastructure projects coming from her with the backing of the Trump administration. It's kind of weird, and I'm not sure why. She keeps coming back to suggesting that the support is coming from Donald Trump. Very disruptive, we'll put it that way. But anyway, the Crown has stayed the proceedings, I understand. So the charges have been stayed, yes, by the Crown. That's confirmed. And there was a preliminary inquiry that was set to begin in April. But seeing tonight that I guess this thing's going to be kind of kicked out. So you can go that far is sort of my point, and still not, in the end, face conviction. In many ways, though, the process is the punishment, right? But it's not like death by firing squad or anything. It's not like shoot to kill, the way that Doug Ford is advocating tonight. There it is. Crown stays charges against Queen of Canada, Romana Didulo. Yeah, I didn't send my personal information. I know the gas is particularly expensive right now, and I know that she travels around in that mobile home, like that RV, and the gas no doubt costs quite a bit, but I didn't think I would want to subsidize the Queen of Canada with my meager savings. I really can't afford it. Yeah, she rose to prominence in the wave of alt subcultures that emerged during the protests against the public health measures employed in the COVID-19 pandemic. Yes, she did. And in Richmond, or Richmond rather, that's where they moved in. I think it's an old school, as I recall. It's been about a year since I've even spoken about her. And RCMP finally went in there and effected arrests. They reported at the time of the arrest that 13 imitation semi-automatic handguns, along with ammunition, like 13 imitation and real semi-automatic handguns, along with ammunition and electronic devices, were seized during the search of the group's compound. Huge concern for people living out there. So I'm not sure where this goes now, because if the charges stayed, if she gets off the hook, if this just continues, they'll be back. People keep donating. Some pretty crazy stuff with the Queen. Pierre Poilievre, just pivoting back to tariffs for a moment and trade. You know, he's been down in Michigan talking with auto executives, talking about trade with politicians and so on. And all of that is fine and dandy. I'm not sure how far exactly that gets Canada, although I guess it lays the groundwork for anything that Poilievre might do should he form the next government after the next election. But what is making headlines tonight in a much bigger way, this is getting more attention than him going and meeting with all these politicians and big business people and auto industry executives in order to try to pave the way to something productive, useful, helpful for Canada and trade. No, this is what's making the headlines tonight. Yeah, he has done an interview with Joe Rogan. Yay, say all of the Pierre Poilievre fans. And it's a big win. And here I am talking about it as well. Yeah, it's strangest of times. So now Now it's, yeah. People kept saying to Poilievre, too, you got to get on the Joe Rogan show. It's Canadian politicians have to get on the U.S. podcast circuit and get on the big shows in order to get the big headlines. No matter what, it doesn't matter what else he does. You just got to get on the Joe Rogan show, man. Maybe he'll smoke some weed, and then we'll see where that goes. That's what it's come down to. That is what it's come down to. Okay, let me take another break. I got to cue something else up here. I shall return. So do not go away. Do not pass go. You can collect $200 later.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so this got colorful today too. Also, sort of related to issues of violence. This is about Rand Paul, senator, who asks DHS nominee Mark Wayne Mullin if he believes violence can resolve political differences, really bringing to the surface, drawing attention to what Rand Paul, I think, refers to as anger management issues or something to that effect. Because this is not, these two have a history going back, because it was 2017 in Bowling Green, Kentucky, where Rand Paul was outside doing routine yard work at his home, and his neighbor attacks him, some guy named Rene Boucher. Attacks him from behind without warning, tackles Rand Paul to the ground, according to the evidence presented in court, body slamming him. Rand Paul suffers 6 broken ribs, a punctured lung, led to a very serious injury. Very painful. Took a long time for Rand Paul to recover. And in fact, I don't think he has fully recovered from it. I think he has long-term, maybe lifelong now, medical issues because of it. And this became a subject of debate today because Rand Paul chairs the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, opened the confirmation hearing for Senator Mark Wayne Mullin. This is President Trump's nominee to lead the Department of Homeland Security. And he directly confronts Mullin today over comments that he made earlier this year. Because back in February, there was a policy disagreement. Paul was blocking a funding bill. Mullin publicly called Paul a freaking snake and told reporters and constituents that he completely understood why Paul's neighbor had attacked him in 2017. Essentially, it was like it looked like he was justifying or downplaying the violence that was perpetrated on Rand Paul. So today, Rand Paul called him on it. It became a focal point in today's hearing. Let's bring it up.
Year that Representative Gabby Giffords was shot. I entered the Senate the same year that Representative Gabby Giffords was shot. I knew then that the state of political rhetoric was encouraging violence. I think it's imperative now, more than ever, that the leaders in our country disavow violence and lead by example. Through the years, I've personally been exposed multiple times to political violence. I was in the right field batting cage when the crazed shooter unleashed nearly 200 shots at our congressional baseball practice. I'll never forget Steve Scalise valiantly trying to drag his body away as the gunman continued. Later that year, a Trump-hating felon attacked me from behind in my yard. I was just straightening up from picking up a tree limb. I was wearing noise cancellation headphones. Never saw him coming. Running pell-mell down the hill. I was struck in the back. The force of the blow sent us through the air nearly 10 feet, down the hill until his shoulder impaled me as we hit the ground. 6 of my ribs were broken. 3 of the ribs were completely separated, such that for weeks the ends of the ribs would grind upon each other. My lung was damaged. For weeks I could inhale but not have the rib strength to exhale. I developed 2 pneumonias. The pain was such that I could only sit up in bed by tying a rope to the foot of the bed and pulling myself up. But even then, the pain was that of 1,000 knives. Over the year of recovery, I began to cough up blood. I underwent removal of part of my lung. Complications led to an infection in the space between my lung and chest wall. I spent a week in the hospital having the infection lavaged every 6 hours through a chest tube. Recently, Senator Mullin, if you have time to listen, you were confronted by constituents that were angry because you voted against my amendment to stop all funding for refugee welfare programs. Instead of explaining your vote to continue these welfare programs for refugees, you decided to transfer the blame. You told the media that I was a freaking snake and that you completely understood why I had been assaulted. I was shocked that you would justify and celebrate this violent assault that caused me so much pain and my family so much pain. I just wonder if someone who applauds violence against their political opponents is the right person to lead an agency that has struggled to accept limits to the proper use of force. You might argue you were mad and upset about being confronted by your constituents. But Senator Mullin, your constituents are justifiably upset with you. By now, most of America knows that the Somali welfare fraud in Minnesota stole over $9 billion. But instead of defending your vote, you took to continue the vote to continue these refugee welfare programs. You chose to lash out at me. You went on to brag that you'd already told me to my face that you completely understood and approved of the assault. Well, that's a lie. You got a chance today. You can either continue to lie or you can correct the record. You have never had the courage to look me in the eye and tell me that the assault was justified. So today you'll have your chance. Today I'll give you that chance to clear the record. Tell it to my face. If that's what you believe, tell it to me today. Tell the world why you believe I deserve to be assaulted from behind, have 6 ribs broken and a damaged lung. Tell me to my face why you think I deserved it. And while you're at it, explain to the American public why they should trust a man with anger issues to set the proper example for ICE and Border Patrol agents. Explain to the American public how a man who has no regrets about brawling in a Senate committee can set a proper example for over 250,000 men and women who work at the Department of Homeland Security.
Support journalism you trust. Support.
Let me take a break. Coming back.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow, maybe too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
The information war is raging. Truth without integrity is worth nothing. Maverick News. Because those who have power and those who seek it must be held accountable.
The world is watching.
Join our family of truth seekers. Donate today and add your voice to the chorus of Maverick Knights. Donate at maverickdonations.com. Truth. Integrity. It's the Maverick way. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, let's... I want to see if I can get you the... Yeah, okay, I've got two more things for you here related to that. First, the Mullin response to Rand Paul.
Chairman made, calling me a liar. Sir, I think everybody in this room knows that I'm very blunt and direct to the point, and if I have something to say, I'll say it directly to your face. If you recall, back in my House days, we actually did have this conversation because of the remarks that I made. You were in a room. I simply addressed that I said I could understand because of the behavior you were having, that I could understand why the neighbor did what he did. As far as my terms of the snake in the grass, sir, I work around this room to try to fix problems. I've worked with many people in this room. Seems like you fight Republicans more than you work with us. I did address those remarks. I did explain your gimmicks by the amendment you put forth. And as far as me saying that I invoke violence, I don't. I don't think anybody should be hit by surprise. I don't like that. But if I do have something to say, everybody in this room knows I'll come straight to you. I'll say it publicly and I'll say it privately, but I'll never say it behind your back. So for you to say, I'm a liar, sir, that's not accurate. And I got proof to say that because you have spent millions of dollars in my campaigns against me because we just don't get along. However, sir, that doesn't keep me at all from doing my job. I can have different opinions with everybody in this room, but as Secretary of Homeland, I'll be protecting everybody, including Kentucky, as much as I will my own backyard in Oklahoma. It's bigger than the partisan bickering that we have. It's bigger than the political differences we have. The truth is, I have a job to do, and I don't like to fail at anything, at all. So I can set it aside if you're willing to set it aside. Let me earn your respect.
Here's what happened outside in the media scrum.
Planning on voting for this nominee?
I think there are anger issues. I think there's a lack of contrition, both about the violence that was perpetrated on me, but really the violent episode he was involved in the Senate committee where he's told the media, frankly, that he doesn't regret it. He's also told the media there is, he said it again today, that there's historical precedent for violence, that caning and dueling happened all the time. And I pointed out, well, it was illegal 170, 200 years ago. They would actually flee and they would do it in areas they could find where the law didn't reach. Sometimes they would actually go to Canada, sometimes they'd go from one state to the other. But the mass of civilized response, even in the 1850s or 1830s, was against dueling. That's why dueling was made illegal. The fact that he can't bring himself to say that, really we shouldn't settle political questions with violence, I think that would be a terrible example for ICE and for our Border Patrol agents. We're in the midst, I think, of a crisis where there needs to be more direction from the top. And a guy who brawls, a guy who can't even say he's sorry about, wishing violence on me and really applauding the attack that happened on me, can't come to say that. I don't know how he could, from my point of view, be a leader of ICE or Border Patrol.
Senator, no, are you saying you're no? Kevin, did he say
Well, see how that goes. I don't know if you've been exposed to much of what Mullin is about. I'll just say the word simplistic comes to mind. I'll leave it there with that for him tonight. What we're going to do now, though, is we're going to shift gears entirely. And we're going to, normally when I do a True Spiracies segment, I go into the future to get next week's news today. But what I did is, it was almost 2 weeks ago now, I went into the future to get next week's news, which I did, and then I came back, but I didn't have time, even though I have a time machine, to present next week's news, which is now last week's news, but it doesn't matter because when we come back, we're going to review last week's news, which won't matter because it's evergreen news that never goes out of style. And with that, brace yourselves, folks, because it is time for a long overdue episode or segment of True Spiracies. So I went into the future, arriving before March 2nd. Oh my gosh, it's already the 18th. That's how much news there has been. It's just been a constant flow of urgent stories that just could not be ignored. As a result, we got left behind even with the time machine at our disposal. Nevertheless, this stall is still very relevant. So we're bringing you the oldest from the National Enquirer, which is still the newest because Jeffrey Epstein has been found alive, which is really why I've been trying to get to this, because this is big news. This is the news you can use. So do not snooze, because this is the conspiracy theory America can't stop talking about. This is all about the death record written 24 hours before his suicide and the mysterious figure caught on video fleeing the cell. Let's go in and find the guts of this story. Here we go. Where is it? Jeffrey Epstein. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here last, but still first. Epstein lives. This is official. Let's read, shall we? From the pages of the only news tabloid you can trust, the National Enquirer. Or the one you can trust the most, anyway. The shocking theory that claims the pedophile isn't dead after all. Reviled sex criminal Jeffrey Epstein is alive, and explosive evidence in the Department of Justice's recently released tranche of documents and videos details the elaborate scheme to dupe America into believing the well-connected billionaire is dead, sources say, who shall remain nameless. The bombshell paper trail includes top-secret FBI reports and emails showing the government penned a press release announcing Epstein's death the day before. It's all right there, in capital letters, the word before, so it must be true. He was supposedly found hanged at age 66 on August 10th, 2019. Has it been that long? Time flies when you're not having fun. Inside his New York City prison cell while awaiting trial for sex trafficking. In addition, documents reveal a full-throttle investigation into a whistleblower prison guard who claimed the pedophile's body was swapped out. The old switch the corpse trick. There's also stunning video footage from inside the prison showing a mysterious figure in an orange inmate jumpsuit outside Epstein's cell block. I've seen that video, coupled with a 2-page FBI report suggesting the feds purposely wiped all in caps, ALL, of the jail's surveillance footage on the day he died. Social media posts have appeared to show the clean-shaven creep on his Caribbean hideaway, Little St. James, also known as Pedophile Island, as well as an additional pic, which some believe is AI generated, of Epstein with long white hair and a shaggy beard flanked by buff bodyguards in where else? Israel. Disgraced royal Andrew Mountbatten, Windsor's former girlfriend, Lady Victoria Hervey, Lady Victoria, like Victoria's Secret. What secrets does she hide today? That she firmly believes Epstein is alive, she says, protected and hiding in Israel. Really? Here's a quote. My friends at the Department of Defense all tell me that he is alive, and those guys know because they get intelligence information all the time, she says. Ed Opperman, a private investigator who spent about a decade investigating Epstein, tells the Inquirer, I always thought he was alive and he was walked out of the prison. The Epstein people control the story, and right away they gave the public a choice. I call it a magician's choice. Was he killed or was it suicide? They never give you the option of whether he was walked out of there. The gumshoe believes Epstein, a longtime operative, money manager, and fixer who rubbed shoulders with Presidents Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, billionaire Bill Gates, and British ex-Prince Andrew, was purposely kept alive by the powers that be. He's been involved with these people for years, says the PI who hosts the Opperman Report podcast. They can't show their other friends that they were going to, leave someone out there to dry and get killed. Plus, he had the money to get out. Documents show the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York typed up a press release dated August 9th, 2019, stating, quote, and I quote, earlier this morning, the Metropolitan Correctional Center, MCC, confirmed that Jeffrey Epstein had been found unresponsive in his jail cell and pronounced dead shortly thereafter, even though he wasn't found until 6 a.m. the next day. Meanwhile, hours after Epstein's supposed suicide, documents show prison guard Roberto Grahavalava, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Grahavalva, G-R-I-J-A-L-V-A, Grahalva? Well, you get the idea. He's 46 years old and allegedly anonymously posted on the website 4chan, which you can always trust, that at 4:16 a.m., I need to fix something on my computer screen. Fixed, okay. Get back to the story. Epstein was taken by a wheelchair to the nurse's office and later into a trip van. Grahavalava tells the Inquirer he has no comment. And then after about 4 hours, Epstein's body was found. Grahavalava, I'm sorry, allegedly wrote, quote, we do not do releases on the weekends unless a judge orders it. Here's the thing, the trip van did not sign in, and we did not record the plate number, and a guy in a green dress, military outfit, was in the back of the van, according to the tower guy who let him through the gate. You guys, I am shaking right now. I'm quoting. But I think they switched him out. Investigators obtained search warrants for the Grahavalava's phone and banking records, right, in a federal probe that generated about 274 pages of FBI. Can somebody get me a pronouncer? The proper pronunciation on Grahavalava's name? Sorry about that. Just don't know how to pronounce it. Adding to the mystery is a report titled FBI Analysis of Video Footage. Well, that's a conspiracy in itself. That states a flash of a possible inmate is spotted entering or leaving Epstein's tier, even though the DOJ's office of the Inspector General report states all inmates were on lockdown when it was recorded. Another document details an FBI interview from March 12, 2020, with a tech worker who claims he was ordered by MCC's warden to upgrade its surveillance camera hard drives. The worker, whose name was redacted, of course, claimed an FBI agent, quote, pulled out the DVR even after the G-Man and prison personnel were advised that the action would cause the system to be wiped, the report states. Hervey says, quote, I think Epstein has been pulling the strings on a lot of things from Israel. He had so much information stored in his brain, they probably thought he's more valuable alive than dead. Well, there you have it. And here's a photo with a red circle on it and everything. Right? Look at that. 2 red circles, in fact. So you can see with the red circle. Fled first to Pedo Island. Well, pretty nasty stuff. I think there is more to all of this than me see. You know what? I was thinking actually this morning about Bill Gates. You know, few people have been taken out by this Epstein scandal. Bill Gates is suffering as a result, obviously, kind of caught with his hand in that sex cookie jar, just a little bit. I don't think it's a case of pedophilia in his case, but certainly an indiscretion that is more than a little embarrassing. And yet, you know what? After all of the hullabaloo, all of the stuff that has been swirling around Bill Gates for so long, all the rhetoric and the negative conspiracies or whatever you want to call it, I haven't heard anything more about it. It's all kind of gone hush hush. I am not sure why, but maybe it's just because all the Epstein stuff has suddenly been pushed to the back burner because of the war in Iran. What else do we have here? I won't go through all of this tonight. We'll do a shortened version of True Spiracies. But as much as Epstein is alive, we know that Kurt Cobain is Deadsville because even though some people think he's still alive too, definitely not. The Inquirer reporting that he was murdered. New evidence backs prior Inquirer reporting. Death was no suicide. So we've got new evidence, new proof, explosive new evidence, suggesting Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain was indeed murdered. Something National Enquirer readers have known since 2016. I didn't know it. I haven't been reading enough of this. Authorities ruled the 27-year-old grunge god killed himself with a shotgun blast to the head in his Seattle home on April 5th, 1994. But now a bombshell new forensic report indicates Kurt died of a drug overdose dressed up to look like a suicide. It says here, right here, in our issue, all the real news is right here. In our issue dated January 18th, 2016, we exclusively reported forensic and medical evidence proved it was impossible for Kurt to have turned the gun on himself. And the Inquirer probe found Kurt had 3 times the lethal amount of heroin in his system. And the shell ejected from the shotgun that killed Kurt landed to the left of his body, despite the weapon's exit chamber facing to the right. An Inquirer investigation in 2023 also found Kurt's widow, Hole singer Courtney Love, had a motive to kill her husband. When 30-plus hours of secretly recorded chats show Kurt had asked the couple's lawyer to nix Courtney from his $50 million estate just weeks before his death. Follow the money, baby. Follow the money. Last August, the Inquirer partnered with 2 handwriting experts as well as Utah-based private eye Jason Jensen to report on disturbing irregularities in Kurt's alleged suicide note. Now, the peer-reviewed forensic report, authored by a group of independent gumshoes, I like that word, used twice in this publication so far tonight, including famed investigator Brian Burnett, supports the Inquirer's finding that Kurt was murdered. Well, isn't that Hitchcockian? Maybe we'll run a Hitchcock flick on Maverick Midnight Matinee this coming Friday. I've been thinking of doing a Hitchcock Maverick Midnight Matinee. That might be a good reason to do it. I have some other ideas too, though. We'll see. Next time I ask people to guess the movie, I won't put it in the description of the video. Don't. Homer Simpson moment. I rewrote that description last Friday for the broadcast about 4 times that night, and I had forgotten that on that reread I put the title in. But anyway, congratulations, Maureen. I know you said you don't deserve the T-shirt, but I will send it. I will send you one if you want one. Just send me your address. I'll send you a T-shirt. Oh my goodness. Anything else of note in here tonight? All the news you don't need to know, but the news you can use. Well, these things are cool. Hall of Justice, cold cast bronze sculpture collection, but not made of gold. You won't need to invest your life savings in order to obtain these 3 collectible Hall of Justice gold cast bronze sculpture collection figures from the Bradford collection. Those are collectibles that a lot of people can't fit into their budget. The horoscope. Well, we won't get into too much of that because it depends on what your sign is. Maybe we'll have another clairvoyant or a astrologer on. I sometimes say something like astronomy or an astronomer, and people think that I'm talking about astrology. It's funny how people confuse words sometimes. Housewife's daughter hooked and homeless. Oh my. Oh no. My mom's going to be so upset. Real Housewives of Orange County. Oh my goodness. Real Housewives of Orange County alum Lynn Curtin is allegedly no longer speaking to daughter Alexa after the 33-year-old's dark spiral into drug addiction. And the National Enquirer can reveal the former reality star is living on the streets. See, can touch any family, no matter how much money you have. Alexa was recorded looking disheveled at a Lancaster, California gas station with 2 of her fingers seemingly missing. Oh my God. Seriously? She also appeared to be missing teeth. Quote, I was doing heroin and then I met some people. They introduced me to fentanyl. So I started doing fentanyl. And basically my life just kind of went downhill, Lynn's youngest child explains. I started smoking speed. The high school dropout admits her current situation is dangerous and claims that she's been homeless and abusing drugs. A man handcuffed and brutally raped her for 2 hours. Quote, I tried to crack the window with my head, but I couldn't, and he covered my mouth, covered my nose. I couldn't breathe, she alleges. He threatened to kill me, according to Alexa. Oh, geez, what is horrific? Oh. According to Alexa, who featured as a rebellious teen on season 4 and 5 of RHOC, she can't take refuge with her mother because she's being cut off until she gets sober. Accessories designer Lynn has been open about disapproving of her daughter's shady lifestyle choices. Well, starring on Bravo, the 69-year-old was criticized by co-stars for letting her underage children party. Yeah. But as the Inquirer reported, Lynn became physically ill when she discovered Alexa was doing porn in the 2010s. To bankroll her plastic surgery, including a boob job and rhinoplasty. What is this? I had no idea, she told the Inquirer. A string of drug-related charges followed between 2016 and 2021. Last year, Alexa served 3 days behind bars after pleading guilty to meth possession. Is this real? It probably is. I'm not using as much as I used to, she recently claimed. I used to use a lot. Now I use a lot less. The one-time TV star insists she's trying to clean up her act. I have to literally start from the ground up, says Alexa. It's going to be difficult, but I'm actively trying to do that. Here's the pictures. Mom and daughter right there. You know what I find, though? Celebrities, they go deep down into these dark holes, these terrible places of addiction and sin and depravity, and then they use it. And they own it. They come back. Even Charlie Sheen recently on sort of the live stream podcast circuit talking about, his drug addiction problems. And they always claim they're getting cleaned up. It's the strangest thing. I see repeatedly in our society how people put the strangest people on pedestals. Whether it's a rock star like Jimi Hendrix, who also, because of drugs and alcohol, ended up choking to death on his own vomit, and yet idolized, and the lifestyle also glamorized, even though it has taken so many lives. People put these drug addicts on pedestals because they're famous, and they laugh, and we revel and live vicariously through these celebrities and their sins. I see online right now these sort of fake people, influencers, whether it's Andrew Tate or Clavicular. There was some other guy in I think they're calling it now the manosphere, where they're presenting these characters online who are ultra hyper masculine. We've touched on it a little bit. I can't pronounce this newest guy that I've come across that's just been popping up in my predetermined algorithmic feed. It's not healthy. None of it is healthy. A lot of it is supposed to be based on traditional values and getting back to the way things used to be, and it's really, in some respects, if you're looking at the sins of the past, yeah, they're being, repeated, but it's not healthy. I don't understand why we continue to do this as a society, continually glamorizing people who end up ultimately killing themselves with sex, drugs, and maybe even some of that rock and roll and the politics. And making excuses for people who make excuses for themselves and shield themselves with religion sometimes. Even the President of the United States, who we saw in his office this week, within the past week, surrounded by those faithful, not just people who have faith in God, evangelicals, some would say right-wing Christian nationalists, all laying hands on the president in the Oval Office, praying, Trump with his eyes closed, highlighting the controversial integration of church and state. And then our stories, our interview with Amico the other night, talking about the way Christ Church in the United States under Pastor Douglas Wilson shielding convicted pedophiles, welcoming them, continuing to welcome them even after conviction into their churches. 160 churches worldwide now and growing. And man, that has really highlighted some serious questions, serious issues for people, forming some pretty serious cracks in the MAGA base, too, making people wonder. And as I've pointed out, just, in recent months, I'm just not buying a lot of this stuff coming out of the White House anymore because of the Epstein files, because of revelations, because of Trump's past with Playboy bunnies, nightlife, hanging out with sex offenders. Cavorting with porn stars. And then shielding himself with religion. Because he needs the votes. Politics. It's a nasty, nasty business. Blood sport, some say. I believe that. It's really rough out there, man. It is rough. And with that, what shall I leave you with tonight? Well, I know what Linda's going to want. So let's give our main mod what she likes the best. I think I need to go back here and click on a couple of things, but I will get you what you want, Linda. I know you're looking for it as we wrap up this True Spiracies episode, or segment. Here it comes. Your favorite, and I think mine too. It's all fake. I'll see you back here tomorrow night. Maybe with Brandon Pringle, not sure, to discuss separatism. If that doesn't happen, we'll bring you the top stories of the day on the morrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, on the flip side.
Charlie's alive. Elvis flips burgers on the Lower East Side. 10 Trumps mask up on your phone. Shilling mean coins by remote drone. Graphene needles in your veins. Chemtrail sugar fries your brain. George Floyd's American hologram pie. Don't trust your lying eyes. It's all fake. It's all fake. The moon is a hoax. Give your head a shake. It's all fake. It's all fake. Your mama's a lizard. Your break.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.